This same technique was also used in the final stage of construction. The rough internal blocks were covered with an outer casing of perfectly smooth stone. This was carved from the highest grade limestone and had to be carried across the Nile to the pyramid site. With this polished casing, the pyramid would have shone dazzling white in the Egyptian sun.
But when the pyramids were newly encased in this special limestone, they must have been blinding in the sun like newly fallen snow.
To achieve this, every casing stone was cut to sit perfectly with its neighbors. When complete, the Great Pyramid of Giza was covered with thousands of these facing stones. Sadly, they have long vanished, taken to build the mosques and castles of Cairo. But facing stones can still be seen on the cap of Khafre's pyramid. Even with all the Egyptian skills and tools, building the pyramids was still an incredibly hard task, requiring millions of man-hours to complete. Legend has long suggested that the pyramids were built by armies of slaves. The legends are wrong. Forensic archaeological discoveries are now putting a face on the people who really built the pyramids. The building of the pyramids was an enormous construction project requiring incredible manpower resources. Ancient histories tell of 100,000 men laboring on the Great Pyramid for 20 years. Modern experts believe 25,000 workers is a more realistic estimate. The job was completed during Pharaoh Khufu's 23-year reign. The workers would have put in over 250 million man-hours. Ancient Egypt was a rich land, but for such a mammoth undertaking, the builders would have had to source materials from across the whole country. The vast granite blocks had to be floated 600 miles down the Nile from the quarries at Aswan. Keeping a pyramid build on track was a logistical nightmare that would test even a modern engineering firm. Engineer Craig Smith has overseen vast construction sites and has analyzed how a pyramid build might operate.
You don't have cell phones, you don't have pagers, you don't have laptop computers, you have millions of pieces of material that have to arrive at the right point in time.
Egyptian communications depended upon papyrus and foot messengers. Yet they kept track of thousands of workers and countless millions of pieces of raw material. A present-day pyramid builder would have all the benefits of modern technology available to them. Where the Egyptians probably relied on the stars to align the pyramids, we would use lasers. Where the Egyptians used simple ramps, we would use giant tower cranes to raise the blocks. Today, motorized vehicles would transport building materials to the site. All the Egyptians had was muscle power and slow-moving boats. Craig Smith has calculated the cost of building a Great Pyramid in today's money.
If you did it with limestone, it'd be about $4 billion and would take about 4 years.
That's considerably less than the 23 years it's estimated it took to build the Great Pyramid. But we should not underestimate the scale of their achievement. The ancient Egyptian craftsmen would have had to place a block every 2 minutes, 270 blocks every single day for 23 years. And on top of its sheer scale, the pyramid was built to last for all eternity.
We haven't built anything of that scale in recent times that probably has any likelihood of lasting 4,500 years.
The Great Pyramid alone was a triumph of human ingenuity. But amazingly, the Egyptians built another 17 major pyramids. This pyramid building epic spanned 5 centuries and was perhaps the greatest construction project of all time. These pyramids are known by the names of the pharaohs who commissioned them. But the identity of the actual people who built them has long remained a mystery until now. It was thought that the pharaoh would never have forced his own people to toil for year after year constructing the pyramids. Instead, it was believed that they were built using slave labor, possibly the Israelites. In recent years, archaeologists have excavated the areas around the Giza pyramids. Their finds have radically changed the theories on who built the pyramids. Renowned Egyptologist Dr. Zahi Hawass has discovered the tombs of the actual pyramid builders. Dr. Hawass was surprised at the elaborate nature of these tombs. They do not look like humble burial grounds for slaves.
If the people who built the pyramids were slaves, they will never be buried in the shadow of the pyramid. If they were slaves, they will never prepare their tombs for eternity, like kings and queens.
Dr. Hawass's work is finally letting us see pyramid construction from the worker's perspective.
Before our discovery, you know a lot about kings and queens, but you know nothing about the people who really worked in building the pyramid.
But who were the actual workers? The answer comes from the new science of forensic Egyptology. Egyptologist Rosalie David works with biologists and artists who reconstruct the lives of the men who built the pyramids. CAT scans and 3D imaging resurrects faces of the ancient Egyptians from mummified skulls. This is the reconstructed face of an Egyptian who lived thousands of years ago.
You do get a sense of the character of the person. They cease to be a wizened mummy or a dry skeleton. And there they are with the flesh, the eyes, the hair. You're looking at somebody who could be alive today.
Forensic analysis of workers' bones provides conclusive evidence that the pyramid laborers were not foreign slaves.
The idea that the pyramids were built by slaves is totally wrong. This has been proved really by the archaeological evidence. So all the studies on the bodies show that they are Egyptians. They're not from overseas.
The bones also show clear evidence of medical treatment. Broken limbs have been reset. One skull even shows signs of early brain surgery. Foreign slaves would never have been granted such high-quality medical attention. But where was this native workforce housed? To Mark Lehner, the pyramid builders' town must have been near the Giza Plateau.
If there were 20,000 people out there, to say nothing of 30,000, it would have been one of the largest cities in the world in the 3rd millennium BC. So where was it, and where was all the infrastructure?
Lehner's breakthrough came when he excavated a site to the southeast of the pyramids, next to the workers' tombs.
Everywhere we put down an excavation trench, we find large, substantial mud brick walls, evidence of an ancient settlement.
The layout of this long-hidden town exposes more and more about the lives of the pyramid builders.
Well, the footprint of this lost city tells us something about how they organized their society in this very early period when they built pyramids.
Feeding the workers may have been the biggest organizational challenge, and Lehner's team has found evidence that the craftsmen were well catered for. From remains found on the site, it's clear that the pyramid builders received generous rations, including beer, meat, and fish.
They were very well organized, they were well fed, they were looked after because they were very important.
But it appears that the middle management may have been even better looked after.
They were eating a lot of meat, sheep, goat, but especially cattle. They ate very well, but we're seeing that some people on the site ate better than others.
Mark Lehner believes that this core of professional craftsmen and officials were kept on site. But the hauling of the blocks was carried out by villagers who came to work on the site for a few months or years. For these unskilled workers, pyramid building was a bit like military service. This was an army mobilized from the length of Egypt, but they came to build rather than to fight.
What really fascinates me about the pyramids is not so much the king or the little man in the trenches, but the whole human network that could create something like the Great Pyramid of Khufu.
But what drove the ancient Egyptians to dedicate so much energy and manpower to the pyramids? Why were thousands of men brought from across the country to labor on this site? These questions have intrigued archaeologists as they try to solve the third great mystery of the pyramids. What were they for? Back in medieval times, it was thought that the pyramids were the giant granaries of the biblical character Joseph. But most modern Egyptologists believe that they are tombs for the pharaohs. The largest and grandest tombs ever built. Although centuries of tomb raiding means that no remains of a pharaoh have ever been discovered inside a pyramid. And no mummy was ever found in the so-called burial chamber of the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Dr. Hawass, however, is convinced that there is enough written evidence to prove the pyramids were built as tombs for the pharaohs.
There is lots of evidence in inscription, in literature, that telling us that this is a tomb for the king.
But a tomb for a pharaoh was more than just a resting place for his body. Deep within some pyramids is evidence of another, more magical function. These tombs were built as gateways to the stars. The ancient Egyptians poured resources and manpower into building the pyramids, the greatest stone monuments on the planet. It's believed that they were built as tombs, but their true importance to both the pharaoh and Egypt itself remained hidden. For centuries, these silent giants kept their secrets until a discovery made by pure chance. In 1879, a workman was passing one of the later Saqqara pyramids at dawn when he saw a jackal. The beast seemed to be taunting the workman, almost asking to be chased. The workman then followed the animal into a hole near the pyramid. To his surprise, he found himself in a chamber. Lifting his lantern, he saw that the walls were covered with hieroglyphs. These ancient sacred writings had been hidden for thousands of years. Jim Allen is a world expert on these hieroglyphs, or pyramid texts. He believes they give us a unique insight into the intentions of the pyramid builders.
They are the oldest religious texts known from Egypt, which makes them one of the oldest bodies of religious texts in the world.
The texts revealed nothing about how the buildings were built, but they do reveal the pyramid's ultimate purpose. The pyramids were not created as simple resting places for the pharaohs. They were built as giant machines for turning men into gods.
The pyramid is like a cosmic engine. It is designed to transform the dead being beneath it into a living spirit.
When the king died, the ancient Egyptians believed that Egypt and existence itself was plunged into mortal danger. Even after death, the ruler had to protect his country from drought, famine, and the forces of chaos. The mummified pharaoh was carried into his giant tomb, along with food, clothes, jewels, and treasures, everything he would need in the afterlife in the stars. Salima Ikram has studied ancient Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife.
The basic thing is it's very much like this life, except better. So everything you wanted in this life, if you've managed to put it into your tomb, you can have it in the afterworld.
The pyramid texts leave a record of the rituals that were performed over the mummified body of the pharaoh. To ensure that he survived his journey to the afterlife, they also included spells and prayers to protect him.
We tend to think of magic as abracadabra, wizards, witches, Harry Potter. To the ancient Egyptians, magic was a part of the universe.
For the Egyptians, this was the science of survival.
There is no superstitious mumbo-jumbo in ancient Egypt. Everything has a meaning, everything has a purpose.
Once the rituals were completed, the pyramid was sealed, hopefully for all eternity. The pharaoh was then free to make his journey to the afterlife, to be reborn as an eternal star. But Robert Bauval, who has written extensively on the pyramids, believes that there is a further connection between the stars and the pyramids. For years, he has been intrigued by the links between Egyptian religion and astronomy. It all started with an aerial photograph of the Giza pyramids. Bauval noticed a very distinctive pattern.
I was looking at monuments that had been laid according to a plan. There were two large pyramids set along a diagonal. But what bugged me, what really got me, was there was a third, smaller one offset from the diagonal.
This faulty diagonal reminded him of the stars of Orion's belt. It has two bright stars and one dimmer star offset. The relative sizes and positions of the three Giza pyramids seem to match those of the three stars. For some Egyptologists, Bauval's theory is just a coincidence.
If you look at the stars in the Orion constellations, you'll find that they do not fit with all the Old Kingdom pyramids at all. You'll find maybe very few with computer you can really match this.
Dr. Hawass argues that many other stars in the Orion constellation do not match the layout of any pyramids on the ground. But to Robert Bauval, the correspondence was clear evidence of an astronomical master plan, explaining the layout and design of the major pyramids.
You cannot deny the fact that there are three stars that look like the plan of the pyramids. Two large ones, small one, offset. Two large pyramids, small one, offset. That is a fact. It's a fact. What isn't a fact is whether it is a coincidence or not.
For Bauval, there is another piece of compelling evidence within the overall design of the pyramids that backs his astronomical theory. There are 4 narrow shafts built into the structure of the Great Pyramid. Just 8 inches wide, they climb upwards through the solid stone interior from the king's and queen's chambers toward the surface for over 200 feet. They were carefully built into each layer of stones as the pyramid rose. These stone shafts may hold clues to some of the last remaining mysteries of the pyramids. Originally, it was thought that the shafts were designed as air vents to bring fresh air into the pyramid for the workers toiling inside. However, for Bauval, these shafts are far more significant. As he examined their orientation, he felt he was cracking a secret code, a code built into the very structure of the pyramid.
But it was exciting to realize that I was beginning to listen to the silent language of the pyramid.
Bauval believes each of the 4 shafts running through the Great Pyramid is built to point directly toward a major star. What's more, each of these stars is critically important in the ancient Egyptian religion. One of the southern shafts points towards Sirius, the counterpart of the goddess Isis, while the other points to Al-Nitak, one of the stars in Orion's belt. This constellation was the heavenly equivalent of Osiris, the Egyptian god of death and resurrection. The star shafts may be aligned this way to help the spirit of the pharaoh ascend to heaven, to join the god Osiris, and become a star alongside him. For Boval, this realization was like solving an ancient riddle.
So we have a kind of language, if you like. I call it astroglyphics. The pyramid speaks through its architecture and through its symbolic astronomy.
Although Boval's theory is totally rejected by some Egyptologists, other mysteries and rumors still surround the shafts. Dr. Hawass believes that they may lead to unseen treasure within the pyramid's core.
If I'm right, this will be the most important discovery in Egypt and in the world.
The Great Pyramid at Giza contains a complex of shafts and chambers. Researchers have already discovered 3 possible burial chambers linked by corridors, including the magnificent Grand Gallery. But in recent years, interest has focused on 4 mysterious shafts that run from the King and Queen's chambers toward the surface. These narrow channels are surrounded by rumors of hidden chambers and astrological links. In the 1980s, a French team studied the structure of the Great Pyramid using microgravimetric techniques which detect variations in the density of objects. Their study identified several areas of differing density, suggesting that there may be undiscovered chambers near the top of the pyramid. In 1993, Dr. Zahi Hawass worked with a German robotics team to explore the shafts in the Queen's chamber. What they discovered rocked Egyptology.
After 200 feet exactly, the robot was stopped in front of a door with 2 copper handles.
The southern shaft was sealed by a solid limestone slab, which blocked the robot exploring further. In 2002, a different team went back with a more advanced robot. It carried drilling equipment designed to cut through the limestone panel. Remote sensing techniques, similar to those used to find earthquake survivors, had revealed that the slab was only 3 inches deep. The robot climbed up the narrow shaft and drilled a small hole, just big enough for a tiny camera to pass through. What the camera revealed was totally unexpected. Another limestone door across the shaft. For some observers, it was a bitter disappointment. But for Dr. Hawass, this was still an important find.
We are not looking for the doors of Alibaba and the 40 thieves. We are looking for archaeology. Then anything that you discover inside the pyramid, it's a major discovery.
Behind this second door is a region of the pyramid unseen for over 4,500 years. Dr. Hawass believes that a hidden chamber may lie behind the limestone slab. He is now ready to go back inside the Great Pyramid and believes he may find the ultimate archaeological prize.
I still believe that the burial chamber of Khufu is still hidden inside the pyramid, that we're going to go through the first door and the second door to find out what is the mystery behind them.
If Dr. Hawass uncovers the tomb, it could be the greatest find ever, greater even than the discovery of the tomb of King Tut. Here may lie the last mystery of the pyramids, the final resting place of Khufu, one of the greatest of pharaohs. Sealed since the day when the pyramid was finally completed and stood gleaming in the desert sun. The Great Pyramid is the only wonder of the ancient world left standing. Its polished stone casing has long gone, and it has lost 30 feet in height since it was built. But even at that rate, it might take another 65,000 years before it disappears from the skyline. The pyramids stand as a testament to the extraordinary skills of the people who built them. They tower over history itself, truly among the greatest achievements of mankind, past and present.
They stand there against all the odds after thousands of years, and they trumpet immortality.
As the ancient Arab proverb says, man fears time, yet time fears the pyramids.